Well, dear friends, welcome to a special show of Mozayk. And I have with me a very good friend, Georges Saati. And Georges, welcome again to Mozayk, a show that you've done before in Creole. And today we're going to do one in English. Welcome to our show once again.
Oh, good evening, everybody. Good evening, Claude. Very happy to be back with you.
So I was very interested in getting back with you on subjects because we've always talked about, and I think you're one of the few experts that I know about South America and what is happening there. And just a few days ago, someone in my office pointed out to me that Venezuela has really hit the bottom, apparently, because we always thought that the country we love, Haiti, was at the bottom of the economic levels here in the Caribbean, when in reality, it seems that Venezuela has hit that point. So my question to you is that can you explain to me how a country that in 1950 was the number four, uh, rated number four as economic powers in the world, that's in 1950, and in 2014 had a GDP of $482 billion, and today, 6 years later, it is cut that by half at about 240. Um, can you explain to me how this happened?
You know, communists and capitalists, or whether you call them socialists, always fighting. And one thing, like they say, both sides, there are a bunch of corrupt people on both sides. But the socialist side, I can tell you, I always said that before, they are specialists in destroying countries and destroying people. Can you imagine in 1978, the salary in Venezuela was $1,700. And now, about 40 to 45 years later, after 20 years of communism or socialism, as you may call it, any way you prefer, can you imagine they are right now paying a Venezuelan makes $2 a month? And I repeat, $2 a month. That's like you going to any Miami bakery, Cuban bakery, and you ask for two guayaba pastel is the guayaba. I'm sure most people know them. You pay $1 a pastel de guayaba. So you mean a Venezuelan is working for two pastel de guayaba a month, and not far away from Venezuela. In 1928, Venezuela was exporting 275,000 barrels of petroleum. In 2008, they were producing 2,400,000 barrels of petroleum. 100 years later, from 1928 to about 2020, now they're producing 275,000 barrels a day. They're producing what they were producing 100 years ago. 87% of Venezuelans are living under the poverty level. 7 million Venezuelans left Venezuela. So I always say that wherever you have communism or socialism, they destroy any country. I remember a person who told me once, you can give them the dessert full of sand, and when you come back and let the socialists govern the country, or the dessert, when you come back, there is no sand. He also said one thing I remember very well. You can give them the sea full of water. When you come back, there will be no water for anyone. And
If we could talk about technically, the steps are that they nationalized a lot of the private business, and that's the first thing that a country that transforms from democratic to socialist, and that was with the arrival of Chavez. Uh, Chavez basically uh, seemed to have taken the country by force and forced his and imposed his his method of economy, which was nationalizing a lot of the private businesses and the oil companies and so forth. But how did the people, were the people so unhappy that they let him happen? Was it like all the promises that Castro was giving and said he would never be a communist and he was a communist? What happened in Venezuela for the people who were, maybe not everybody was making money, but there was a strong middle class, maybe. Well, how did was able to convince them to walk away from what they had?
There were many unhappy people with the previous government, and they did not believe in the institutions anymore. When people are unhappy and they don't believe in their leadership anymore, it's very easy for a person to come as a populist and say, okay, I'm going to give you back everything you did not have. So people looking for hope, people want to work, people want to have a better life. And the country was really very rich, but majority of the people were not well off. They were not that poor, but they were not doing very well. So when a man comes and promises everything to the masses, and at the time in 1999 when he came into power, then he went and dealt with the OPEC countries and convinced them to lower their production and to increase. So the price of petroleum oil could increase, and the price of oil effectively went to $100. That was a lot of money he was getting in. And as a matter of fact, he started really helping a lot of people. Can you imagine an old lady living in a favela, and she does not have a stove to cook food. She does not have a refrigerator. And this man comes and promises and gives stoves, gives refrigerator, and he becomes a god for everybody. At the same token, while he's doing that, he's taking good advice from his good friend Fidel Castro, that he admired very much. And Fidel Castro told him, listen, the army people, give them all the benefits you can, and little by little, you're going to change the head of the army. We're going to change the cadre, the real, and you're going to put your own people, and you're going little by little to cut people's freedom. So when he started giving all those gifts, he eventually gave, and there was a lot of money coming in the country to many people. People were very happy. So when he told them, the press is blocking me, so he could, cut freedom, the people were behind him 100%, and he would win each time in elections. So continue giving, continue, but you spent 10 years, the economy was booming because they were making $100 a barrel of petroleum. Then it was no longer the case. But he started spending a lot and putting all these corrupt individuals to take the places of other corrupt individuals they had before. And Castro was showing him how to control the press, how to control the army, how to control the police, how to control everybody. And he started paying Cuba, giving all the advantages to Cuba. There was a lot of money coming in. So Cuba started sending supposedly a lot of doctors, which effectively the doctors helped. But among the doctors, there were a lot of intelligence agents, Cuban military intelligence agents who were teaching him how to control the country totally. So nobody would be free to speak or to do anything. And little by little, when you spend more than you put in, and petroleum prices start going down, then eventually, if you spend more than you bring in, you have to go borrow money everywhere. And what they did with their system doesn't work. They started scaring all the private investment, and everybody started leaving the country. And the first 10 years, the capitalists made a lot of money because a lot of money were coming in the country. Can you imagine? For the first time, they were selling so many refrigerators, so many stoves, so many cars, many tires. Everybody was making a lot of money. The smart ones put their money out, and while they were making more money, they were putting their money out. But those who became so greedy and blind, and they didn't know what was and they didn't save any money, then they became in trouble. And once the government, the system doesn't work, and people started abandoning the country, up to today, there are about 7 million Venezuelans who left the country.
So basically, Chavez dies, Maduro takes over.
Yes.
Is there any difference between his Maduro style of government compared to Chavez?
Chavez was smarter than Maduro. Maduro is not a very bright person, but the system implanted by the Cubans is already there. So first of all, you have the army totally controlled, is there to repress the people, and the Venezuelan people. Like one of the things they did, I want to mention that is very important. I see a lot of people fighting about people bearing arms in this country. You know, when the socialists go in a place, they say, okay, nobody can walk around with a with a gun. I'm not saying about machine guns or anything like that. I'm saying people should be able to bear arm in their country because it happened in Venezuela, it happened in Brazil. You have no guns or nothing. So all the power is in the hand of the government. You cannot even rebel, but they have all the guns. And I don't think this should ever happen in the country. People should be free to have a gun, a shotgun, or something at their houses. If one day they have to defend themselves against a repressive government, against a dictatorship, they will. Another thing, uh, Latin America does not have a history of democracy. You have to remember that Bolivar imitated Napoleon Bonaparte, and Bolivar was not a democrat himself. He was controlling 6 countries before Venezuela, and he was a total dictator.
Yeah, it's all been. It's there is no history of any. You know,
And you
if
want
it
to know
was
that
if
Venezuela,
there's a revolution, is to remove who's there with replacing with somebody new with the same same type of with the same type of rule. Um, well, so then let's go back to the results, and Venezuela is not the only country that this has happened to. There are other examples of socialism that have failed,
okay,
unless they get Russian support or some kind
but
of
even
art.
with Russian support, Cuba was getting $2.5 million a day from the Russians. And Cuba is, I've been to Cuba. Cuba is totally poor. I mean, Cuba has nothing. People are people are not very happy in Cuba. If you talk to Cubans, they tell you they are not very happy. Once they implanted socialism in Cuba, they did it in Venezuela, and the excuse the Cubans have, oh, it was the United States embargo. But there was no embargo on Venezuela, no embargo on Argentina. You remember after World War II, Argentina was the third most powerful country in the world, exporting to the world. They have a lot of agriculture, they were exporting everything. Right now, a person in Argentina with their socialist system for the past 30 years, not as radical as the Chavez government, but an Argentinian, if he's working today, is making $4 a day, which is less than a Haitian who makes very little, who makes $5 a day. Whereas a Dominican makes $20 a day. Guatemalan makes $20 a day. Central America pays $20 a day. Can you imagine Argentina pays $4 a day if you are working? That means if you work in Argentina every day, they give you half of a Burger King, half of a hamburger. You get half of a hamburger for working every day in Argentina.
So, explain to me why it seems that there are a lot of politicians that are elected in the United States. They seem to be presenting a socialist platform. They seem to be presenting everything that is has been attempted in these socialist countries. Maybe they use a different name, but they seem to be hitting a nerve because they seem to have followers. And they've gotten to the point where basically, if you look at the Democratic platform and what they're about to present, what they're about to vote on on their convention, they're actually coming in a very extreme socialist programming, and how come are, are they aware of the failures of socialism in other countries? Do they are they uh, are they just uh, naive, or do they know exactly what they're trying to do?
You know, I always said it would probably shock you that the people from the right, the extreme right, they are the partners of the socialists. You know what I mean? They are so ugly themselves, the way they do it, the way they favor the big corporations, the way they favor the few who makes most of the money. So people resent them. So when you resent them, instead of going to the middle, they have so much rage, they go to the left. And you see, in most countries, you see, the left spend 8 years in power, and the right spend 8 years in power. It's like they are friends. It takes two to tango. They're always tangoing together. Whereas, if you are from the center, I believe in being from the center, but real center, not center right or center left, but pro business, pro jobs, pro democracy, and pro freedom, then people can really see what's happening. But you see, the left also control the press. And the millennials, they are mostly to the left because they are tired. They are disgusted with what's happening. Because you can criticize the left as much as you want, but look at the right. They are very, very ugly. And you know what? According to the polls, on what we all read, most Republicans are moderate Republicans and most Democrats are moderate Democrats. And that's why you will see a lot of Democrats voting for Trump. And that's why you saw a lot of Democrats voted for Reagan in 1980. But
Yeah,
people are not extreme right or extreme left.
I think we're seeing right now a swing in the registrations. It seems that the Republicans are registering more people, which is a good indication of where the emotions are. Just 3 months before an election.
Because I think the Democrats are confused and they don't know what they're doing. They're all talking so many different things, and people believe in law and order. People want law and order. People do not want chaos. So a lot of people are going to vote for the candidate of law and order, the candidate they feel is going to give them more security. This is very important.
Well, listen, I wanted to touch base with you on these important points because I think that people seem to forget what socialism is all about, what communism was. I think we were recently reminded by at the conference with the Mexican president was there, when the president of Goya Foods was talking about what he went through as a Cuban American or as a Cuban with the arrival of communism. So he saw it as a young man, and he's seeing it again. And I think that it's difficult to get young people to listen to older people, but if they don't, then it'll be too late, and then they'll be saying things like I should have listened. And I don't think we can afford to
But
make to make that educational lesson. It's too painful.
if you want people to listen and people not to be to the left, you have to start by cleaning the right, because we know what the left are. But the right, we have so many corrupt people on the left and the right. And right now, for example, is that a question of Biden or Trump? Okay, there are only two candidates, but it's not a question. What's important right now is to save America, the United States, freedom, our ideals. When you give an opinion, if you give an opinion now, they attack you on Facebook, on Twitter, wherever you are attacked. Like it's like you have no right to your opinions anymore. Like half of the country voted Trump, but if you voted Trump, you have no right to vote Trump. You're a dummy, you're stupid, you're a radical to the right,
You're a racist.
you're a racist, they blame everything on the Republican. Everything is blamed on Trump. You know what I mean? Where before COVID-19, everybody was having jobs. We all had jobs. And the thing that amazed me the most, Trump supposedly spoke very badly about the Latinos, according to the press, which is totally controlled by the left. I don't watch CNN, MSNBC. I don't watch those channels anymore. But I also do not watch Fox anymore either. You see what I mean? But the excuse is, the economy is bad, it's COVID, is everything you can think of. But you talk to Latinos and say, the gardeners, the guy who takes care of the roofs, the people who do the less advantageous jobs, the cleaners, the people who do the maintenance on the building. You say, who are you going to vote for? Some of them tell you, I will vote for Trump. Others will tell you, me, I cannot vote, but if I could, I would vote for Trump. But others tell you, my wife is an American citizen, she will vote for Trump. I say, why? Then they say that Trump speaks bad about the Latinos. I say, I, I always have a job since Trump is president. I always have a job. I don't have to look for a job. I have a job. I can work all the time. So, me, I'm not a fanatic. I do not agree at all with the State Department foreign policy, with Trump's foreign policy. I do not agree at all. But with domestic policy, I agree. Because I think what's more important to most people are jobs. People don't care about international politics. They don't care about what other people are saying. They want to know they have their jobs. And I spoke to a lot of people. Came from Louisiana, from Wisconsin. I mean, listen, we want to know we have our job, we have our car, we have our home, we have security. On the weekends, we can make barbecue home. That's what we
Right.
want to do. We don't care what's
And
going on in the world.
we want to call 911 and make sure somebody answers and it shows up when I need them. I think there's no doubt. All right, listen, I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate this conversation. I think that if we can share this and educate a few people, uh, but it's I don't believe in the polls. Just
I
like you said, I don't
don't
believe in the polls
post
because those who
that
want
people.
Trump don't want to say they want Trump because they don't want to be harassed. But deep inside, I think they know their decision. And when they're inside that booth and they close the drape and they press the button or whatever they do to vote, no one is going to tell them who to vote for, and th're going to do their conscience, and it's got nothing to do with the polls.
Listen, the polls did not work for Trump, and the polls did not work for Bolsonaro. And everything they predicted was a lie. And I do believe in November, Trump will win by a landslide. A lot
Well,
of people will get upset at that. Another thing which is very important, I want to, if you give me one more second.
yeah.
I have many friends who claim they are from the left. A lot of them call themselves socialists, but I know they are my friends. They are Socialist Fifth Avenue, Saks Fifth Avenue. They are caviar socialists. They are party socialists. They love socialism, but they don't want to share their wealth with anybody else. But I want them to know that although they said they took a dislike for me because I supported Trump, but I still like them. They're still my friends, and I have more common points with them than I have differences. And I'm not going to fight with them because of politics.
I think it's important because I was going to ask you this question. I said if 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 a Democratic woman was dating a Republican man, should the man wait till after the election to try to kiss her, or should he try to do it before? Because things are tough out there.
But you tell you what, you know, I had girlfriends. I didn't favor the socialists. I was always against the socialists. But my best girlfriends were socialists. So they say they're against the right, but they love men from, men who speak their mind. The right are like the tontomakuts. They say, okay,
What
I'm a tontomakut, and that's it. I'm after money. But the guys on the left, they're hypocrites. They don't say they're after money. They say they want to save the people. So I find a lot of women who were supposed to be socialists that love guys who are supposed to be defending the right. But the war already started between the left and the right, and it's going to
oh,
be a big war.
there's a big war. Now, I will finish with the point that I the the leftists, the Democrats that I have spoken to and conversed with, one of the things that they all agree with is that at least Trump is not a hypocrite. He's going to tell you exactly what he thinks. Now, it may be not a good thing if he says what he says all the time about what he thinks, but nobody else does that. So you can hate him, you can love him, but nobody can say that he's a hypocrite and a politician who just tells you what you want to hear. He's
They,
going to tell you how it is, and if you don't like it, too bad.
they will say he's controversial. He's controversial. He makes a lot of waves. The Europeans doesn't like him. That's their problem. But my mother used to tell me, speak your mind. That way you will not die of cancer. Always speak your mind. Even if other people don't like it, at least they know where to stand with you. And the ones who will become your friend, they will be your friend for who you are and not whom they want you to be. So at least many things he said he was going to do, even though sometimes I did not agree with him, he still did them. He made many mistakes, but at least with this man, you know where you're going. You don't have to guess him. Whereas you bring another person who is so accustomed to politics, his whole life is politics. Like you bring a man like Biden. You know, Biden has been 47 years in politics. What has he done for the country? I mean, what can he say? If he dies tomorrow, say, okay, the vice president Biden, what has he done? What can they say he did in his life? But I don't think, I think they made the wrong, uh, Democrats chose the wrong
No,
person.
you have to remember something. They needed someone they can manipulate and control because it's not about who is president. It's about who controls the administration. And the people that he's already named to be his advisors are the people who will be controlling. It's a little bit like the Haitian president. On paper, he has no power. It's the prime minister that has the power. And I think that if they were going to really push for the other candidates, those were a lot more difficult to control them. So Biden is the easiest to control, and they got what they want. Is that going to be enough for them to get to the presidency? I don't know. Or maybe they know they're not going to win, and they went for somebody that was not going to be around, and they leave all the other candidates fresh and ready for the battle in 4 years.
But I'll tell you one thing.
But I'm
In
not that smart,
November,
so I can't guess what they're doing.
in November, after Trump becomes president, he always said he was
Again.
going to drain the swamps, right? But he never did drain the swamp. I mean, maybe he wanted a second term. He wanted to be reelected. I hope he does not deceive anybody. So, and after November, I know he's going to take the gloves off. And all those people who humiliated him, who did him wrong, or who were fighting against him all this time, he's not going to play with them anymore. Some people will have to pay taxes. I think a lot of things are going to change nationally and internationally. At least we can say one thing about him: he never started a war. We still have no wars, and it's taking. Yesterday, he took, I think yesterday or last week, uh, he took he brought the troops back from 5 bases in Afghanistan. He's returning bases in Iraq. He's bringing the people home. That's the good thing to do. We cannot be in permanent wars. And he promised he would not make a war. Whereas, although my Democratic friends would not like it, they do not like to hear it. But Obama, who won the Nobel Prize, the Peace Nobel Prize, which he
Mhm.
does deserve, he was the warrior in chief, and he was the deporter in chief, and he was working for the neocons. He was working for the big guy. You just have to go on Google, which is against Trump anyway, but you can check the facts. The
Right.
facts are this president did not get us any war, although he's spending more, which I don't think is right, and for the military, because I don't think we should be going to war with anybody. We have enough to destroy the whole
Yeah,
world.
but sometimes you don't have a war because people are concerned that if
We
you do
can,
go to war, you're going to
we
be in
can
a
destroy the world 100 times. But I think he wanted to please the military-industrial complex. I think he wanted to do that, but so I don't agree with that. I think we should invest more in education, more in health,
Or maybe that'll happen.
uh, you know,
We'll see.
and nobody's going to attack us. Right now, we need to spend the money inside of the United States. The business of America, I remember an American president said that, is business. We should be doing business with Iran. We should be doing business with everybody. We're not the police of the world. We're in business to make business, not to police the world. Look at that. You're giving
Yeah,
all
but
the big investment to China and Russia. Yesterday, China signed with Iran $400 billion worth of business, of railroads, of everything. This $400 billion could come to the United States. Don't you think so? Russia is taking over, China is taking over. Why? Because we're putting sanctions on other countries. Sanctions. Sanctions for what? We don't have to police other countries. We just want to do business with other countries. That's how we're going to have more jobs and people are going to be happier in this country and we will not be disliked or hated in other countries.
George, if anybody wants to contact you, how do they best contact you?
I'm on Facebook. I'm everywhere on Google, and they can get in touch with me by email. My email is everywhere on the internet, and my telephone. They can contact me through you. They'll
I'll
find
put
me. I'm available.
I'll put your email on the screen, and that way they'll know how to reach you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, George. I'll see you soon.
Okay.
Bye bye.